81 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason, and we're moving on to the NC State Wolfpack as we're kind of finishing up with the ACC conference. This was an NC State team that was pretty close to getting into the ACC championship game just a season ago, and now this team has a lot of hype coming into the 2022 season. I've seen top 10 rankings, I've seen top 5 rankings. This is an NC State team that is projected to have a very, very good 2022, and they definitely excelled a season ago. This was a really good team a year ago, and coming into 2022, a lot of people expect it to still be the same story. However, can this be the year that NC State pushes their way into Charlotte in the ACC championship game, or will NC State disappoint from the expectations that have been put on them for 2022? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, and that means I'm doing your favorite team. So go ahead, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, so you know when your favorite video, or excuse me, when your favorite team, when that video gets uploaded. And for those of you guys that are NC State fans in this video, again, you guys are going to know your favorite team a lot more than me. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, anything of the sort, leave it in the comment section down below, and I'll be happy to read through with what you guys have to say. So let's talk about NC State in 2022, shall we? This is my second-ranked team coming into the ACC for the 2022 college football season, and it was a pretty good team from a season ago. And I think pretty good is an understatement. This was a very good team in 2021, 9-3, 6-2 in conference play. We're going to play in a bowl game that ended up getting canceled because of COVID. How that flared up again last year. But for NC State, 414 yards with around 33 points per game. And on the defensive end, they played some really good defense in Raleigh a year ago. This was one of the better defenses in the ACC, 331 yards with around 20 points per game. So definitely a great defense from a season ago, and they look to carry that into 2022. Let's take a look now at some talent that is leaving and that is coming back for this NC State team under head coach Dave Doeren. Now, when you look at the talent that is leaving, there definitely is not a lot of quantity that is leaving this team. However, there is a lot of quality that is leaving this team, and it starts at the running back position. Zonovan Knight and Ricky Person, who by far and away were this team's two leading rushers from a season ago, are both gone. 753 yards and 3 touchdowns for Knight, and 636 yards and 5 touchdowns for Person. This was one of the better running back duos in the entire country. And although the stat line may not be as impressive as some other duos, this was one of the most impressive, in my opinion, running back duos to watch, at least the time that I got to watch them. And I really liked both players, but they are now no longer in a Wolfpack uniform. They're also losing top target Emeka Emezi, who had 60 catches for 802 yards and 6 touchdowns a season ago. Dylan Parham, a tight end, kind of a backup tight end, or maybe even was that starting tight end last year, but did not have a lot of role, only had 5 catches for 22 yards and a couple of touchdowns. He is gone, as well as first-round offensive lineman Ikem Ikongwu. He is gone off of this team. And then when you look at the defensive side of things, Ibrahim Conte is a defensive lineman that is leaving this team. You also look at Daniel Joseph, 46 tackles, 5 sacks a season ago. You lose that production, as well as Levi Jones. He had 45 tackles and 6 sacks, and the 6 sacks was tied for the most on the team. Also, Chris Ingram is gone off the defensive back position. There are a couple other names that you could throw in there as well, but again, when you look, especially offensively, but overall, just not a whole lot of not a whole lot of quantity leaving this team, but a whole lot of quality is leaving this team, especially on the offensive end, which I think might be a little bit of a question mark coming in. Just how do they replace that production, things like that. But one thing on the offense that will not be a question next year is Devin Leary. Devin Leary had 3,433 passing yards with 35 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, a 7-to-1 TD to INT ratio. That is excellent. That is really good. Not really a guy that likes to get out of the pocket and run. Did have 2 rushing touchdowns a season ago, but including sack yardage was in the negative for rushing yards from a season ago. So not a guy that likes to get out of the pocket and run, very much a pocket passer, and he does very, very well at it. And I think Devin Leary could be due for a huge season in 2022. Behind him, the running back position, that's a little bit of a question mark, right? When you lose guys that are as talented as Knight in person, it's going to be. However, you have a couple guys back there that I think are going to prove to make this running back room just fine. Jordan Houston, probably going to be that feature back. And then they have Michael Allen, a freshman, who is supposed to be pretty talented coming in for this team. So there's your probably 1-2 at running back, if not some other guys that fill in the gap there as well. Although Michael Allen could end up being 3 or 4 on that depth chart, honestly. When you look at the wide receiver position, although you lose your lead target, Thayer Thomas, Devin Carter, and a transfer, Darryl Jones, coming over to this team. That's a lot of talent at the wide receiver position, and there are more names that I just did not name. When you look at the defensive side of things, Corey Durden, Van Davis on the defensive line. Two guys that I really like. Durden had 3.5 sacks a year ago. David Van had 4. Davin Van, not Davis Van. I apologize. It's Davin Van. And then linebacking position. This could be one of the best linebacking units in the entire country. Peyton Wilson is coming back after missing a lot of time last year. Drake Thomas, the leading tackler from a season ago, is coming back. He had 99 tackles and 6 sacks from a season ago. And also Isaiah Moore comes back at that linebacking position as well, had 43 tackles a season ago as well. When you look at the defensive back group, Cyrus Fagan, Tanner Engel, Derek Pitts, lots of guys in the defensive back group that's coming back as well. So this is still going to be a talented defense. And although you are losing some guys on the offensive end, especially some of the leaders from a year ago, this can still be a really talented offense, especially with Devin Leary at the helm. Taking a look at the schedule for the NC State Wolfpack, it looks a little something like this. Non-conference, you go on the road to play East Carolina. Could fare to be a fairly interesting game. I mean, I don't think East Carolina is a pushover by any means. That's definitely going to be a fairly interesting game week 1. Then you have a home game against Charleston Southern. Should be able to win that one. A home game against UConn there as well. But squeezed in between those two little cupcakes, in my opinion, is the game against Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech bringing over Zach Kitley from Western Kentucky. Had one of the best offenses in the nation last year. And if Texas Tech can get things rolling in year 1 under Joey McGuire and with Zach Kitley as the offensive coordinator, that could be definitely a very dangerous team. Although NC State gets them at home, watch out, because that can still be a very, very dangerous team. When you look at ACC play, you got to go on the road to play Clemson, Syracuse, North Carolina, and Louisville, and you get games at home against Florida State, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, and Boston College. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this NC State schedule. Again, on the road against East Carolina could be a fairly interesting game. They're returning a lot of talent from a season ago. Definitely going to be an interesting game when you look at that NC State Wolfpack team. Or excuse me, when you look at that game. But when you look at this Wolfpack team, I do definitely think that they do have more talent than East Carolina. And I am going to favor the Wolfpack over the Pirates. But could prove to be a little bit of an interesting game in week 1. Again, we don't really know what these teams are yet. Could be interesting. So I'd keep my eye on that one, but I wouldn't be too concerned about losing it if I were an NC State fan. At home against Texas Tech, if that offense can get rolling and can figure out this NC State defense, have fun, because the Zach Kitley offense is really hard to figure out when it's moving, although it might take a year of growing pains. If it doesn't, Texas Tech can be a very, very dangerous team. When you look at ACC play, of course, the one that stands out to you is that road game against Clemson, and it always will. It's on the road against Clemson, Death Valley, very, very tough environment, and could very well be a game that can decide part of that division in the ACC Atlantic. Same thing with the game against Wake Forest, but you get them at home. So playing Wake Forest at home, that's also a big time opponent that you want to have coming to your building. Same thing with Virginia Tech, Boston College. Could be two teams that could be fairly tricky, as well as Florida State. A couple games, though, you got to watch out for. On the road at Syracuse, the Orange are going to be fighters this year. And then on the road against North Carolina, on the road against Louisville, two teams that return some pretty solid playmakers, and that's not going to be an easy game there either. So lots of landmines here on the schedule for NC State, although they're out of conference schedule, is not the worst schedule in the world. There definitely are a couple fairly interesting games there. But let's go ahead and dive on into the actual prediction. I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook. Tell me predict the team's record. So if the game's in red, I just don't see you winning the game. If the game is in orange, I still don't see you winning, but hey, it's college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games where you should win, but you got to watch out for the team on the other side of the ball, and games in green are games that I just plain have you winning. So Charleston Southern, UConn should be able to win both of those, no problem. I'm going to say they should be able to win the entirety of their non-conference. Again, Texas Tech breaking in a new head coach and new offensive coordinator. I think it's going to be a little tough for them to get a lot figured out within the first 2 weeks. Plus, NC State's got this game at home. Now going on the road to East Carolina, as I've talked about, could be a fairly interesting game, but I don't think there's any true danger of North Carolina losing that one. Or of North Carolina State, my apologies, losing that one. But when you look at conference play, again, Florida State, watch out for them. The Noles are an improving football team at home against Virginia Tech. Look, it's a program that needs fixing, but you can never count out Virginia Tech, although North Carolina State does get them at home. On the road in the Carrier Dome, again, be wary of that Syracuse team. They're going to be fighters. They're going to be looking to try to get into a bowl game here, and they might have to pull off an upset or two to do it. Could be a potential upset alert game right there. And then at home against Boston College there as well. They return Jurkovic and Flowers, and it could be a solid football team, although, again, NC State gets them at home. When you look at all the games I have in yellow, the 2 games on the road to end off the season are a little less interesting than the rest of the schedule, however, or than the other 2 games in yellow. However, they could be games that, again, could ultimately decide whether or not NC State makes the conference championship game or not. And looking at that end of season schedule right there, again, on the road to Louisville, Malik Cunningham, one of the most dynamic playmakers in the country. North Carolina, going to try to figure out what the offense looks like under or without Sam Howell there. But, hey, definitely a team that can do some damage in 2022 if everything gets put together. But the 2 big games that you got to watch out for if you're a Wolfpack fan, of course, on the road at Clemson, that game is going to be circled. We know the Tigers have offensive questions coming into this year, but a lot of people seem to think that they're going to get those offensive questions figured out. But that defense as well for Clemson was still really, really good. Although they're losing the defensive coordinator, going on the road to play in Death Valley is never an easy thing. And then at home against Wake Forest, yeah, you get that game at home, thankfully. So if it comes down to maybe Clemson hasn't gotten their offense figured out, and that's the game, again, that could decide the ACC Atlantic, it's important North Carolina State gets that one at home. But all in all, guys, I really like this North Carolina State team, and I think they absolutely can push for a spot in the ACC championship game. I got them at 10-2. Coming in here. I do think they lose that game on the road at Clemson. I think Clemson's defense probably going to be a little bit too much. And yes, I know Venables is gone, but I still don't see that defense being that far off without him. And then I think you lose one of those 2 games on the road there as well, whoever it happens to be. Although I think NC State, more likely than not, has their losses on the road. But I could see this team going undefeated and making a run. Look, if Clemson doesn't get their offense figured out, those other 3 games in yellow absolutely are winnable games. And while they'll probably be dogs, the only time they'll be dogs is in that game against Clemson. I see NC State dropping another game somewhere down the line. So that's going to do it for my NC State predictions for 2022. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you feel like it. It really does help support the channel. And remember to play hard but tailgate harder. Got NC State at 10-2 in 2022. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.